Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
All right, thanks a lot, Jess, and thank you for tuning in to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. I'm Rich Walsh. I'll be joined by Chris Mueller in a matter of moments over at the 93.7 The Fan Cam, and there he is. Chris, I get surprised every time you pop up. You know, I think we're going to wait a little bit, but there you are. Thanks for joining us again. Hey, by the way, huge game Sunday, obviously, but it's 60 degrees and sunny. Seems like perfect golf weather, too.
I know what you're trying to get at here. Am I going to try to double dip that day? Am I going to try to do both, to go play golf early in the morning and then to watch the game? The answer, I think, is unfortunately no. You know why? Because today was the last day of posting season, Richie, around here. You got to go play a course in Florida for the score to count. So if I can't post it to the old handicap, what's the point?
You're playing great right now. Why do you want to post those scores? You want when you're playing bad, you want to start posting them.
Because I'm an honest broker. I dropped from a 15 at the start of the season to an 11 today, and I'm an honest broker. I'd rather be accused of being a bit of a vanity than a sandbagger. I would never want to have people suggesting that when you pull whatever's in my pockets out, it's the color of this shirt falling to the ground everywhere around me.
All right, speaking of honest broker, I want to pose a question, and maybe we can get some callers to chime in on this. The Steelers have a quarterback dilemma next year. I know I'm getting ahead of myself here. They still got to finish this season. But what do? What would Russell Wilson command? Now, I know there were talks potentially when he came here that there could be an extension if he plays well. But, you know, we don't know what's going to happen. Who's going to be here next year? Could he go somewhere else, Russell Wilson? Does Justin Fields fit in? Now, personally, I think they're going to work out a deal, and both those quarterbacks are going to be back next year. That's just a hunch right now for me. But what do you think about Russell Wilson coming back next year? And also, what would you have to pay the guy to bring him back here?
I think if Russell Wilson plays well throughout the rest of the season, they win 11 or 12 games, and they win at least a playoff game. The price is obviously going to be higher than if he plays average football. They don't win a playoff game, or they don't make the playoffs. I mean, it's going to be performance dependent here. So I think if the good situation happens here and they're still playing football in the divisional round, and he's a major reason why, and I always like to prepare people for this, Richie. Don't get sticker shock. This is the cost of business in the NFL. How about 3 years, $120 million? Would you do that? $40
that's
million
sticker
a
shock
year?
for me. Maybe I'm way off here. I'm thinking it'd be like $25 million a year average, maybe front loaded.
No way.
Where you don't have to pay him that third year if he doesn't perform.
You maybe can make it 2 years guaranteed of that, essentially financially, like where $80 million of it's guaranteed. If he plays really well and he's 36 years old and physically he looks fine, there's not a major Aaron Rodgers-esque injury on his ledger, you are going to be getting hit with sticker shock, I guess. Cost of doing business for a guy who would put up the season I'm describing, even at his age, is $40 million a year.
Okay, so 11 wins, 1 playoff win. This is kind of where I think they are this year. That's the kind of team I think they are. Potentially win the division. We'll see what happens. But 11 wins, they win a playoff game. You're saying $40 million a year. I think that's awfully high, because what other options is he going to have? I know there are other options out there, but he's late in his career, twilight in his career. He's going to want to play for a contender, not the Raiders, not the Titans, not teams like that.
Well, if you were like the Titans, for example, who have a pretty solid defense, why would you not want to make a play for him? If you say, hey, he throws the moon ball, like we'll try to build an offense, we'll get a receiver in the draft, or, you know, I know Aaron Rodgers says he wants to come back to the Jets, so that one would be out. Why wouldn't he want to maybe test the waters if the Steelers don't give him what he wants in New York? Danny Dimes is going to be done there. They could say, hey, you want to throw it up to
Yeah, but can they make the playoffs?
Neighbors?
Maybe you have a better shot with the Jets than the Giants, right?
I mean, they made it with Danny Dimes a couple of years ago. I mean, the Russell Wilson, I think what we have to make very clear here, and what I would say to you is, the Russell Wilson we're describing in like an 11-win season with a playoff victory is a force multiplier. He's making people around him better if all of that comes to fruition. And so teams would be willing to pay for that. Even in his mid-30s, there's not the Aaron Rodgers drama that comes with him. At least I don't think so. He's been a model citizen here. And what the guy has always done well is still what he's doing well, which is drop back and when he's got the time, make great throws deep down the field. It seems pretty obvious because we've watched 3 games of it. You can win with Russell Wilson if the offense is right and if everybody's egos are in check.
All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to continue this conversation after the break. 412-575-2600 is the number. Back in a couple minutes. All right, welcome back to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. This is our GMC Tweet of the Night from MLB. All-Star Game starter, check. NL Rookie of the Year finalist, check. NL Cy Young finalist, check. All MLB first team, check. What a rookie season for Paul Skeens. Unbelievable. I know we talked a little bit about the Buccos yesterday. We got a couple phone calls about the Pirates, but I want to continue this conversation about Russell Wilson. If they even franchised him next year, that would be around 40-some million, 42 million potentially, which is the average of the top 5 quarterbacks. So you're essentially offering him a 3-year deal at 40 million average when you could franchise them for 42.
If it's the top 5 average quarterback deals, it would be much higher than that. I think there's at least
maybe it's the top 10. But
if it's the top 10, it would be closer, but it's still going to be in the high 40s because you've got guys like Jared Goff, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, all making 50 million plus. I think I'm leaving out Trevor Lawrence is making 50 million plus. So
Kyler Murray, isn't he up there? Jalen Hurts.
You've got just a healthy number. Yeah, I said Hurts. You've got a healthy number of players in the $50 million club now, and in terms of average compensation, Lamar Jackson's way up there too with those guys. So the franchise tag's not cheap. I mean, I could look it up right exactly to the number here during the next break, Richie, if you really want an exact answer. But I guess I want to impress upon you and anybody else out there that is shocked to hear me say it might cost $40 million a year to get this guy on like a 3-year deal. That is, for the kind of play we are talking about or we are hoping for, we are envisioning, that really is cost of doing business in the NFL. And with the salary cap going up the way it does, that should not, A, shock you, and that should not, B, worry you or concern you. If the player plays like people here are hoping and thinking he might, then $40 million is going to be perfectly acceptable to pay him.
You know, I think it's because of the Pirates situation here that we all want to talk about money. It's not our money. Spend it. Put the best team out there. If Russell Wilson gives you the best chance of winning a quarterback, pay him whatever he deserves. No question about it. Mark in Valencia. How you doing, Mark?
Nice to be on. Hey, just have a comment about one defensive play that I saw that I guess we all saw on Sunday in the Steelers-Commanders game, and see what you thought about it. I thought it was one of the best defensive plays of the game. It was late in the game. I think the Commanders had the ball, the second last possession they had the ball, and they were deep in their own territory, and it was a third down play, and T.J. Watt, who had been manhandled all day because he was being double-teamed, maybe triple-teamed occasionally, they moved him to the inside, and he rushed right up the middle, almost untouched, and put a lot of pressure on Daniels, enough pressure that he actually tackled him, but Daniels got the ball off and threw an errant pass. And it's sort of, well, that was third down. It stopped the Commanders right in their tracks. And I'd like to see the Steelers do more of that. He's the best player they have on defense, and you think that in those type of situations late in the game, they could move him around and instead of keeping them on the end.
I know he's most comfortable on the right side, but I have seen them move him around a little bit inside, and I've seen him switch sides a few times. You might see that more now, the fact that Alex Highsmith is not playing.
They might flip him around just if they think it's a favorable matchup, but I think to the caller's point there, he says, oh, move him around, make him more of a weapon, change the look for the opposing offense. I think the reason that you wouldn't see them do that is because the one time they did do it, it worked. Like, you don't want to show that look or show these unorthodox looks for T.J. Watt too often because it lessens the effectiveness. And the other thing is, when he's coming off the edge against right tackles, the bend that he is able to get, that is still usually the shortest distance between 2 points. So, I mean, if you have a guy who can, I'm trying to think of a random analogy. If you've got a guy with a 102-mile-an-hour fastball, and that for T.J. Watt is rushing off of his traditional spot, left backer, why would you ask him to throw a bunch of curveballs when that's probably not his best pitch? Like, I would tell the guy, pump the zone with fastballs until they prove that they can hit it, or in this case, block you, which nobody successfully does. I mean, I get it. We all like a good wrinkle. But I would not go overboard with that kind of stuff with him.
Yeah, and he's most effective on the right side. He's most comfortable on the right side, and that's where he's at its best, and that's where people are always, paying attention to where he is. I get what you're saying. I get what the caller was saying, because they did a lot of that with Troy Polamalu, but obviously that's a different type of player. He moved around and did what he wanted. I mean, T.J. Watt is so effective because this is where he is all the time.
I mean, I think what he was asking for was sort of the way the Cowboys use Parsons when he's healthy, but I think Parsons' different skill set, was drafted as an off-ball linebacker in the first place, so there was a familiarity with playing around the middle of the field, and then they just kind of realized, like, wow, this guy's just so obscenely good off the edge. That's probably where we're going to make his primary position. But Micah Parsons had a background that T.J. Watt didn't really have in college as far as where he actually lined up in the defense. So there were a lot of other I thought he was going to say another different random play, like Benton tripping up Jaden Daniels or Patrick Queen chasing him out of bounds.
Or Preston
I'll tell you what,
Smith
that was the best
late.
Well, that was the best defensive development I thought of last week. I thought Patrick Queen played his best game. I thought he was a huge factor in keeping Daniels hemmed in. And if they get similar sort of sideline-to-sideline production like that from him both this week and the rest of the year, that's just going to make their defense that much better. It's going to make quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson, frankly, a little bit more one-dimensional, because if Queen's able to read those situations and beat the guy to the spot, then he's going to lessen a lot of these bigger gains you see a guy like Lamar or Jaden Daniels have.
The one injury that I'm concerned about is the Alex Highsmith in this game. Not having him, I think, is going to be a detriment for the Steelers' defense. I would imagine Preston Smith, you might see more of him than Nick Herbig in this game.
It seems like the perfect game to actually do a true rotation over there in obvious running early down situations. Now, the Ravens are not going to be this predictable. Todd Monken's not just going to say, well, it's first down, time to run it.
That's
well,
what the
it's second
do.
down, time to run it. But I don't think they're going to be predictable. But in situations where you do expect the run, that's Preston Smith. He's almost 270. He's a big guy, knows how to set the edge. I do think if you really want to turn up the heat on Lamar Jackson in a given situation, that's when you have Herbig out there. And then he's fast. He's one of the few guys on that defense that can actually probably run with Lamar Jackson or close to it. So I would say Nick Herbig plays a lot in obvious pass rush situations, and you might get a heavy dose of Preston Smith, given what the Ravens like to do running the ball.
Paul, out in Salzburg. How you doing, Paul?
My question, Rich, is you have a great offense right now with two tremendous quarterbacks. I honestly believe that Williams and Fields are going to be great over the years. And my whole thing of it is, coming up in the draft, what I would like to see the Steelers take, a super running back. If they could get a great running back in the first round or a great wide receiver in the first round, that would be the direction I would go, and then get your defensive ball players that you want. But hey, thanks, guys.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to pay a quarterback. They're gonna have to figure out what they're gonna do with George Pickens, because I don't think if they give him a contract, he's not gonna be too happy. He potentially might sit out. We'll see what happens.
If he plays like this, he's gonna get another deal. I mean, they're gonna want to talk turkey with him if he finishes the season on the track that he's been on, which would probably put him at 1,200 yards and probably put him close to 10 touchdowns because he's suddenly become a weapon. I would not take a first-round running back, period. The only guy I would even think about doing that for is Ashton Genty from Boise State, who I think is
He might be there, too,
terror.
when the Steelers draft.
Yeah, but I wouldn't do that because it's still a wide receiver league. It's still more running back is still a more fungible position. You can still find guys in random rounds. I mean, I could go through the list. I know Derrick Henry was a pretty high pick, a second-round pick, but Kyron Williams, a fifth-rounder. A guy like Braylon Allen's pretty serviceable with the Jets as a backup mid-round guy. Breece Hall was a later-round guy. I don't think I need to go into too much gory detail about just the preponderance of running backs across the league who are drafted in the middle rounds and give not only adequate but even good to very good performance for their teams.
Yeah, Le'Veon Bell is a prime example here. Second-round pick, and he was the best running back that I've seen while covering this team. All right, well, let's go back out to the phone lines. Let's go out to Ray in Whitehall. How you doing, Ray?
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
In regards to the Pirates, I know Andrew McCutchen's a big fixture in Pittsburgh. Hopefully he could stay with the Pirates quite a long time. But I do see a possible problem if he wants to return or if the team wants him to come back as the DH, because you have Endy Rodriguez coming back next year. Hopefully he doesn't get hurt again. And you want his bat in the lineup. And if Joey Bart is going to catch, then that means that Rodriguez should probably be given a chance to be the DH, or you could alternate the two back and forth. And I have confidence in Rodriguez because as a hitter, he was developed outside the organization, like Bart and Reynolds. So I still, hopefully they could find a way to keep McCutchen, but I think that's something that the team has to consider.
What a grim assessment. Well, because he was developed outside the organization, I actually have faith that the player might be useful. McCutchen, if he wants to come back in DH and if the price is right, he'll come back. I mean,
is $5 million a right price for him still?
Sure. It's probably cheap for him. I mean, he actually hit for power last year. He hit over 20 home runs. He looked completely washed up at the very beginning of the year, and then he came on. We again have to use this, don't think your Pittsburgh model of finances for the Pirates is the rest of baseball. $5 million's probably cheap for him, given what he actually did.
All right, we got to take a break. Back in a couple minutes. We have about a minute left. As we do on every Thursday, I'd like to get your prediction. I'm going to start with mine here. I picked Washington last week. I was wrong. It could have went either way. This week, Baltimore's the best team in the NFL. It's hard for me to pick against them. I like Baltimore.
Not. They're not the best team in the NFL. What are you talking about?
In my opinion, I think they are. They got the best offense. They look
Detroit
unstoppable.
On a neutral field, and I'll show you what the best team in the NFL looks like, Richie.
I'm going 26-24 Ravens.
I'll go with 30-28 Ravens.
Oh, you're going Ravens too.
Yeah, I think Lamar's finally going to have a good game against the Steelers. I think there's been way too much fan confidence that they're just going to continue to shut him down. I don't think that'll happen.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Chris. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. Hopefully we see you guys over on KDKA News right now.